Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. My name is Anthony, and this is the Humble Word Program. We're outside. You're looking at our front yard, at least for right now. We're going to be moving soon, but hey, now you get to see it. And my wife and the grandkids are going to be coming down the driveway here before too long, and I'm going to try to finish this recording for today before they get here and everything gets loud, all right? So where were we in our last video? We were in Ephesians chapter 5, of course, and we were reading pretty much in verses 25 through verse 30. And this was talking about how husbands should love their wives as Christ loved the church, and how that no man ever hated his own flesh, and therefore we should love our wives as ourselves, as Christ loves the church and gave himself for it. Now, where does that lead us to? It leads us to the last the last verses of this chapter. And then we'll be getting into the next, which is the last chapter, next. So where are we? Ephesians chapter 5. Oh, say hello to Chester the cat. All right, verse 30. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. Now, what can we learn from these verses? First off, I've said this in many weddings that I've performed, how that the husbands, even when the wives don't fulfill their expectations, whatever those may be, there is a very important truth here that some people would say, well, you're not getting your fair share of love in return. It's that 50-50 fallacy. Well, when you're giving 100%, even though the other person is not giving 100%, even when you're giving 110%, what is the good thing about that? Well, you're not just loving her, you're loving yourself too. So you see, even when the other party in the marriage isn't giving everything that they should be, you're still going to cover the basis of your love requirement when you are loving that other person unconditionally. Because you and that person are one. Now that sounds totally crazy. I get it. That doesn't sound like good marriage counseling. I know. But that's biblical counseling. And it's different than the world. Because the world tells you to expect something in return for what you give. That's not biblical. Christ gave all when we had nothing to give. And so we, as husbands especially, are to love our wives even if they don't reciprocate that. Because that's our duty. That's our responsibility. That is our calling. And so, men, you have absolutely no right, none whatsoever, to say, well, I want another spouse because this one's not loving me. You have no biblical ground to stand on. I'm just here to tell you. You have none. You have no reason whatsoever to walk out on your bride, your family, your responsibilities. There is none. Bruce Springsteen sings this heretical, horrible song that everybody likes, at least a lot of people liked. It's old now, but everybody's got a lonely or heart or whatever, And if you know the song, it talks about how that he walked out and never came back. What a testimony to have. He's scum. He's always been, folks. Let's just call it the way it is. Let's not beat about the bush. Anybody that would make millions off of the fact that you're being proud about the fact that you got a longing and a hungry heart and you walked out and you never went back. Well, good for you. I hope that does not pay well. Yeah, it won't. Because when you do that type of thing, you're going against God's design, and no matter how happy you think you're going to be, there will be a price to pay that you cannot put a dollar amount on it. So, I'm sorry, but I just got the preaching there, and I'm taking too much time. But Paul says, husbands, love your wives. The wind is blowing the pages. So Paul says, a man shall leave his house with his parents and go and prepare a home with his new wife. They're now one flesh, and they're going to be a new relationship, a new family. And I think it's interesting to note that it says that the man shall leave and that he will join unto his wife, singular. Also, it says a man will join his wife, not a man, or a wife. You see, this is the type of the church. Why is marriage outside of God's design bad? Why is it sinful? Why do Christians look down on and discourage same-sex marriage? It's because it ruins the picture that marriage is supposed to be, the representative it's supposed to be of Christ's relationship with the church. He is the groom, we are the bride. He is the faithful one. He is the man who loves us unconditionally. We are the ones who are to reverence him, fear him, respect him, and eventually, if we didn't begin that way, love him. And the Bible says that Jesus loved us first, therefore we love him. You see, that's why this picture here is the way it is. Marriage is not about our happiness, folks. It will produce our happiness. Happiness will be a result of marriage, but it is not the end goal of marriage. Showing Christ's love for humanity and what he did to redeem his church is what marriage is about. Therefore, sometimes we have to make sacrifices. Therefore, we have to live life not happy all the time, but faithful nevertheless. Now, I want to finish this today so that we can move on to chapter 6. So Paul says, verse 32, this is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. I mean, that should be obvious. We've already mentioned that. Now the last verse. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. Because of everything that we've just looked at, Paul says, if I've made the argument clear, I hope you understand it. This is why I'm telling you, love your wife. And he says, in particular, let every one of you in particular so love his wife. You look at the Greek there, it's talking about every one of you, particularly individuals, love your individual wife. Not multiple wives, your wife. Not multiple women, your wife and your wife alone. And then it says, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. Now, interestingly, that word there, reverence, is the Greek word phobos. You know what word we get from phobos? Phobia is a word that means terror, fear. Now that's something that we could talk about later. I'll give you a chance to talk about it and leave your thoughts in the comments. But why would Paul use that word? And why would the King James translators translate it into reverence? Think there's a reason? Well, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section, and we'll get back into this in the next episode, and we'll be starting chapter 6 finally as we wind up our long study in the book of Ephesians. I hope to see you there. God bless. Have a great day.